1221, Nishapur, present-day Iran. The city walls, which had stood for centuries, finally crumble under Mongol siege engines. Soldiers pour through the breach, their arrows darkening the sky. What follows isn't a battle or even a conquest. It's an erasure. Within days, where a thriving metropolis of scholars, artisans, and merchants once stood, there will be nothing but silence. The inhabitants, men, women, children, all gone. This was the fate of not just one city, but dozens, an entire civilization systematically dismantled. By the time Genghis Khan's campaign against the Khwarazmian Empire ended, an estimated 25% of the entire Persian population had perished. The scale of destruction was so immense that historians consider it one of history's most devastating military campaigns. But what triggered such overwhelming wrath? And how did one of the world's most powerful empires collapse so completely? The answer begins with a diplomatic mistake that would become one of history's most consequential miscalculations. Before it encountered the Mongol storm, the Khwarazmian Empire was at its peak. Stretching from the Aral Sea to the Persian Gulf, from present-day Iraq to northern India, it controlled the heart of the Islamic world and the lucrative Silk Road trading routes that connected east and west. The empire had risen quickly under the leadership of Ala ad-Din Muhammad II, known as Shah Muhammad, who had expanded Khwarezm from a small kingdom to a vast empire through military conquest and political maneuvering. By 1218, his domains included the legendary cities of Samarkand, Bukhara, Merv, and Nishapur, centers of astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and poetry, where scholars like Omar Khayyam and Avicenna had revolutionized human knowledge. Khwarezm's wealth was legendary. Its cities boasted magnificent mosques with turquoise domes, bustling bazaars filled with goods from China to Europe, and libraries containing thousands of manuscripts. The empire's army numbered over 400,000 soldiers, with Turkish cavalry considered among the finest in the Islamic world. On paper, the Qwarezmian Empire appeared formidable, but beneath this impressive exterior lay critical weaknesses. The rapid expansion had left the empire politically fragmented. Many regions had been under Khwarezmian control for less than a decade, and loyalties remained questionable. The Shah's own generals often acted independently, sometimes in direct contradiction to royal orders. The Shah himself was caught in a difficult position between his mother, Turkan Khatun, a powerful political figure who controlled significant portions of the empire, and various factions of Turkish military commanders. East of this wealthy but unstable empire, a new power had emerged. The Mongols, once scattered tribes of the Eurasian steppe, had been united under the leadership of Genghis Khan. By 1218, they had already conquered northern China and much of Central Asia. Contrary to popular imagination, Genghis Khan's initial approach to the Khwarezmian Empire was not hostile. The Mongol ruler saw the wealthy Islamic kingdom as a potential trading partner rather than a conquest target. His immediate focus was on consolidating his eastern territories and solidifying control over China. In fact, in 1218, Genghis Khan sent a trade caravan to the Khwarezmian Empire with a message expressing his desire for peaceful relations. "I am master of the lands of the rising sun, while you rule those of the setting sun. Let us conclude a treaty of friendship and peace." This potential alliance could have changed the course of history. Instead, what happened next would unleash a catastrophe few empires have ever experienced. The cascade of events that led to the Khwarezmian Empire's destruction began at the frontier city of Otrar, situated on the empire's northeastern border. In 1218, a caravan of 450 Mongol merchants arrived in the city to trade goods and establish commercial relations as Genghis Khan had proposed. Inalchuk, the governor of Otrar and Shah Muhammad's uncle, viewed these merchants with suspicion, thinking they might be spies gathering intelligence for a future Mongol invasion. Mongols often did use merchants as intelligence gatherers. However, what followed was a catastrophic overreaction. Inalchuk arrested the entire caravan on charges of espionage. According to historical accounts, he ordered all 450 merchants executed, with reports suggesting they were beheaded in public. The goods they carried, a fortune in gold, silver, jade, furs, and silk, were seized for the governor's treasury. When news of this incident reached Genghis Khan, he responded with remarkable restraint. Rather than immediately launching an invasion, he sent a diplomatic mission to Shah Muhammad's court. This delegation carried a letter requesting the punishment of Inalchuk and compensation for the murdered merchants. "I did not wish for war," the great Khan wrote. "You have chosen it." Shah Muhammad now faced a crucial decision. His generals were divided. Some counseled caution, pointing out the Mongols' formidable military reputation. Others, including his mother Turkan Khatun, dismissed the Mongols as primitive nomads who posed no real threat to their sophisticated empire. The Shah chose the worst possible middle path. He neither prepared adequately for war nor pursued genuine peace. Instead, he committed an act that, in the diplomatic norms of the time, was even more shocking than the murder of the merchants. Before we continue to what triggered Genghis Khan's anger, we'd like to ask you a favor. If you're finding this historical deep dive fascinating, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel to be notified when we bring you more stories of nefarious history. Thank you to all who do. He ordered the execution of the senior Mongol diplomat and had the beards of the other two envoys shaved off before sending them back to Genghis Khan. In the context of 13th century diplomacy, this was a deliberate act of war. Diplomatic envoys were considered sacrosanct throughout the medieval world, from Europe to Asia. For Genghis Khan, this violation of diplomatic immunity crossed a line. The man who had united the quarrelsome Mongol tribes through a strict code of loyalty and honor could not ignore such a slight. According to the secret history of the Mongols, when Genghis Khan received the surviving envoys and heard their report, he walked alone to a hilltop, removed his hat, and spent a day in prayer, seeking divine guidance. When he returned, his decision was made. "The eternal blue sky has given me the mission to bring those who are at the top down to the bottom, and those at the bottom up to the top," he reportedly told his generals. The Khwarazmian Shah has chosen to be brought down from the top. What followed would be one of history's most devastating military campaigns. In late 1219, as winter descended upon Central Asia, Genghis Khan mobilized his forces. The Mongol army that marched toward the Qwarezmian Empire numbered approximately 100,000 to 150,000 soldiers, smaller than the Shah's forces, but possessing advantages that would prove decisive. These soldiers were the product of lifelong training in archery, horsemanship, and endurance. Each warrior managed multiple horses, and their composite bows could penetrate armor at 200 yards. Most significantly, they operated under a unified command structure with iron discipline, in contrast to the fragmented Khwarazmian forces. Genghis Khan approached this campaign with methodical precision. Rather than a single massive assault, he divided his army into multiple columns, attacking the empire from different directions simultaneously. The main force under his direct command would strike at the heart of the empire. His sons Chagatai and Ogadai would attack Otrar, the city where the crisis began. His eldest son Yochi would lead a force north into the Sir Daria Valley. Most ingeniously, he dispatched his top generals Jebe and Subutai with 20,000 men on a flanking maneuver through the supposedly impassable Kizilkum Desert to emerge behind enemy lines. This multiple-pronged invasion paralyzed the Shah's response. Unable to determine where the main Mongol thrust would come, he made a fateful decision. Rather than concentrating his forces for a decisive battle, he dispersed his army among various garrison cities, hoping to wear down the Mongols through attrition. The Shah's strategy played directly into Genghis Khan's hands. Otrar was the first target. After a 5-month siege, the city fell in February 1220. Governor Inalchuk, whose actions had triggered the war, was captured alive. His execution was designed to send a message. Molten silver was poured into his eyes and ears, a symbolic punishment for his greed. As the Mongols moved deeper into the empire, they employed sophisticated psychological warfare. Before attacking a city, they would offer terms of surrender. Immediate submission would be rewarded with mercy, while resistance would bring total destruction. The Mongols also deployed advanced siege technology, having absorbed Chinese engineering expertise during their earlier conquests. They used catapults, battering rams, and even diverted rivers to undermine city walls. By spring 1220, the invasion had become a juggernaut. City after city faced the choice: surrender or annihilation. Most chose to fight, a decision their inhabitants would not live to regret. As the Mongol invasion progressed deeper into Khwarazmian territory, the pattern of destruction became increasingly severe. While modern historians continue to debate the exact numbers, contemporary accounts describe devastation on a scale that was unprecedented even in an era accustomed to warfare. The Mongols struck Bukhara first in February 1220. This center of Islamic learning, home to 300,000 people, fell quickly when its Turkish garrison fled, abandoning civilians to their fate. Genghis Khan rode into the great mosque on horseback, declaring himself the punishment of God. After promising safety if citizens evacuated, the Mongols massacred thousands once outside the walls and conscripted others as human shields. They burned the great library with its irreplaceable scientific and philosophical manuscripts. A Persian historian later wrote simply, "They came, they sapped, they burnt, they slew, they plundered, and they departed." Samarkand, the imperial jewel with 500,000 inhabitants, fell in just 5 days despite its 110,000 defenders. The Mongols executed soldiers, enslaved skilled craftsmen, and annihilated countless civilians. Upon hearing of Samarkand's fall, Shah Muhammad fled westward, abandoning both family and treasury, a decision that collapsed imperial morale. The worst was yet to come. At Merv, a cultural center of 700,000, Genghis Khan's son Tolui ordered the entire population outside the city in February 1221, then methodically executed them. Persian historians claim each Mongol soldier was assigned to kill hundreds. Even conservative estimates place the death toll above 100,000. Nishapur suffered most thoroughly. When Genghis Khan's son-in-law Tokochar died from an arrow during the siege, the Khan's daughter demanded retribution. After capturing the city in April 1221, the Mongols separated men, women, and children for execution, then razed Nishapur so completely that the ground could be plowed upon. Archaeological evidence confirms this near-complete destruction. The Mongols' systematic erasure extended beyond killing. Their engineers diverted rivers to flow over ruins and destroyed irrigation systems that had sustained agriculture for centuries, converting farmland back to desert. Some regions never recovered their pre-invasion population even centuries later. By 1221, much of the eastern Khwarazmian Empire existed only in memory. Great intellectual and commercial hubs stood abandoned or reduced to villages. Survivors fled westward with accounts of destruction so complete, it seemed apocalyptic. As his empire collapsed around him, Shah Muhammad II fled westward in increasing desperation. The man who had once commanded one of the world's most powerful states was reduced to a fugitive, traveling with just a small contingent of bodyguards. Genghis Khan, recognizing the psychological importance of capturing the Shah, assigned his top generals Jebe and Subutai to hunt him down with a force of 20,000 elite mounted soldiers. This flying column pursued the Shah across Persia at an astonishing pace, sometimes covering 100 miles per day by using the Mongols' system of horse relays. The pursuit became one of history's greatest manhunts. Each time the Shah reached what he thought was safety, he would receive word that Mongol forces were approaching. City after city refused him entry, fearing Mongol retribution. Finally, exhausted and with nowhere left to run, Shah Muhammad fled to a small island in the Caspian Sea called Abasgan. There, according to Persian historians, he died in December 1220. Some accounts say from pleurisy, others from sheer exhaustion and despair. The once mighty emperor allegedly died wearing the clothes of a peasant. Upon learning of the Shah's death, Genghis Khan reportedly remarked, "I am the flail of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you." With the Shah dead, leadership of what remained of the Khwarazmian forces fell to his son, Jalal ad-Din Mingburnu. Unlike his father, Jalal ad-Din was a capable military commander who managed to rally the remaining Khwarazmian troops. In 1221, he defeated a Mongol force at the Battle of Parwan in present-day Afghanistan. This victory, however, proved short-lived. Genghis Khan, determined to eliminate the last Khwarazmian resistance, personally led an army against Jalal ad-Din. At the Battle of the Indus later in 1221, Mongol forces cornered Jalal ad-Din against the river. His army was overwhelmed. Rather than surrender, Jalal ad-Din mounted his horse, discarded his armor, and leapt into the Indus River, swimming to safety on the opposite bank. Watching this display of courage, Genghis Khan reportedly pointed to the fleeing prince and said to his sons, "This is the kind of son a man should have." Nevertheless, the great Khan ordered the execution of Jalal ad-Din's remaining family members who had been captured. including his infant son. Jalal ad-Din would spend years in exile, trying unsuccessfully to rebuild his forces before being killed by Kurdish bandits in 1231. With Jalal ad-Din's flight across the Indus, the Khwarazmian Empire effectively ceased to exist. A state that had been among the world's most powerful in 1218 had, in just 3 years, been so thoroughly dismantled that it would never rise again. Its territories were absorbed into the rapidly expanding Mongol Empire, and the name Khwarezm faded from the roster of great powers. The speed and completeness of this imperial collapse has few parallels in world history. What had taken generations to build was undone in a historical blink of an eye. Genghis Khan didn't just erase a ruler, he erased cities, cultures, and an entire legacy, all because one empire dared to insult him. His calculated use of terror proved so effective that the Mongols would eventually build history's largest contiguous land empire, covering 16% of Earth's surface. The Khwarazmian collapse also demonstrates the fragility of seemingly invincible powers. Shah Muhammad could not imagine that a diplomatic misstep would erase his entire realm from the map within months. Perhaps most unsettling is how this destruction sowed seeds for a new world order. The Mongol peace that followed these conquests created unprecedented trade and cultural exchange across Eurasia. The same force that destroyed irreplaceable knowledge also connected civilizations that had been isolated from each other for centuries. This paradox, unprecedented destruction creating conditions for cultural and commercial flourishing, remains Genghis Khan's most complex legacy. The empire built on terror would eventually facilitate the exchange of ideas and technologies that helped shape our modern world. The legacy of this campaign extends beyond its immediate destruction. It permanently altered the cultural and demographic map of Central Asia. Regions that had been predominantly Persian became Turkic. Centers of Islamic learning shifted westward. Trade routes changed and political boundaries reoriented. Yet from this destruction, new orders eventually emerged. The Mongol peace that followed these conquests created conditions for unprecedented trade and cultural exchange across Eurasia. Ideas, technologies, and goods flowed across continents under Mongol protection. This paradox, that unprecedented destruction, laid the groundwork for a new connected world, is perhaps the most complex legacy of Genghis Khan's campaigns. The man who ordered the deaths of millions inadvertently created conditions for cultural and commercial flourishing once the conquests were complete. What do you think? Was the destruction of the Khwarazmian Empire a calculated military strategy or a vengeful response to a personal insult? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more of history's most nefarious stories.